Reconvene the meeting at 3:13 without a quorum. And a quorum just arrived. Pardon?
Have you got a hat?
I do, but it's over there. That basket. Took the fruit out. Looks like straw. The cows might eat it too. Right. Melinda, can you hear me? Councillors, in identifying where we stand on this, I identified as 3-all. So I will, I'll foreshadow here that I'm probably in favour of purchasing a 12-seater, but given that there's a few eggs in the basket here and a few balls in the air, I'm happy to delay it for 6 weeks for them to make the decision. If it's possible to hold, we can issue an instruction in the morning to pause the acquisition of the bus. For your information, the quote range for a 20-seater bus is
136 to 140,000.
136 to 140. So, but I don't think this is one that we need to die on the ditch over today. 6 weeks is, now that I know that council's not financially committed, I'm comfortable to defer this matter. So, one of those 3 councillors who is in favour of deferring it, can please move that. Thank you, Councillor Hanson. Second to Councillor Arthur. Yep. The October 2020 meeting, gentlemen. At which time is the decision, we will know whether the school can be satisfied, and we will then finalise, ratify our decision around planned acquisition. But I'm foreshadowing to you, don't take my vote to defer this as necessarily support to maintain a 20-seater, but I'm prepared to give it 6 weeks for further consideration. All those in favour? Opposed? 7-0. Thank you, officers. Thank you, councillors. We now move through to 371. Damien Howard, District Manager, Alpha Jericho. Anything you'd like to report?
Mr Mayor, you're aware of probably the other ATM now in Alpha?
No, I hadn't heard. You want to enlighten me? Wow, at 3 o'clock, really? We're going to have that sort of comedy?
So, I've got nothing else really there to report, Mr Mayor.
Right, questions for Damien, because I clearly can't have anything that'll be recordable on camera for him. (372) funding requests. Councillors, I will speak openly to this. What now? Oh. Councillor Peoples, second to Councillor Plum. Those in favour. Harry, that was your fault, Damien, for trying to be a stand-up comic at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. This next agenda item that's been presented here, there's a detailed letter over the page. This is directly my fault. As is identified in that letter, we had our draft budget meetings. At that point, we still had our community contributions broken up into all manner of where we used to allocate it. There was an allocation for the Drowning Prevention Cluster Day that they had last time in Alpha, and it was pitched to me in that meeting that they wanted to move it to Buckhorn because it was more central. I knew that line item was still in the budget, and I said that at that point everything should be right. Put their presentation. Stephen also had a conversation with him. Damien was present at that meeting. And then they've now moved towards getting ready to organise it, check the funding's there, and lo and behold, we have changed technically how we allocated these community grants within the budget when we adopted it, and there is no reference to it. So,
Which fault?
pardon?
Which fault?
No, I'm not. I'm accepting full responsibility because I very clearly remember the budget planning day where I said, well, let's just put all that in together because the DMs have got the discretion for most of it anyway, and we don't have to forget, or if somebody's not listed and comes up once they're 500, the DMs can do it. So I'd love to blame Brett, but I can't. I haven't actually been game. I haven't actually been game to talk to the providers of Alpha Learn to Swim since, and it is so I'm strongly recommending this program. It's mentioned there in that detail. This is not something that's Alpha centric. It wasn't last time. A significant portion of people from Barcaldine and some from Aramac attended, but it will be, by their own admission, much better attended and have much better reach held here. She goes on to mention about accommodations easier to secure here. It's more than, they put 6 pretty intense sessions into the kids. There's CPR courses, resus courses, there's all manner of stuff that's funded. They get Olympic swimmers to come out or Olympic coaches to come out. They break into advanced swimming techniques as opposed to infant learn to swim. It's not designed to replace the traditional learn to swim programs that happen over a 6 to 8 week period. You know, this is not trying to cut a private operator out. It does have budget implications. I haven't offset it. I'm sorry, haven't had time since Friday to find it. So in your hands as to what we do. Clearly I support it. Councillor.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move it and ask CFO to see where he can find it. Please.
Sorry, Councillor. For the record, I still can't hear you, Councillor, but I'm Councillor Peoples, you're moving if we do.
Yeah.
Seconded, Councillor Gleeson. Would anyone like to speak against this? Those in favour? Carried. It'll be safe to stick my head into the swimming pool in Alpha next week. No, look, honestly, this is a good initiative. They do this, and they really want to work. They think it could be enhanced even better than it was in Alpha, being run in a bigger pool, in a bigger complex, in a bigger community. So
We may be able to invite our constable from Monaburgh.
yeah, I have mentioned that to Henry Taylor, that he's an Olympic swimmer. So yeah.
Really? He was in line to go to the London Olympics and then join the police force. Oh. Yeah, I think I won.
Well, he said that for the $12,000 a year he was earning for swimming, it was significantly better paid to be a police officer. Okay. 373. Expression of interest, Pinehill Reserve. Damien, your report, would you like to lead off here?
Mr. Mayor, we've received 3 that are in the local area or in our region with the adjustment or the expressions of interest. So they've all around the same sort of, I just want to know whether council wants to go ahead with doing like a ballot as such to try and distinguish out of the 3 people that qualify.
Councillors, just for the openness of your records there, the 3 that qualify that Damien's referring to are Mallinbar Grazing, DG and JC and BG Gray and Apsley. Cremorne Cattle Company adjoins us, so they're between Alpha and Plymouth, but they are not actually within that. They're not within that property, it's outside of our shop. So the normal procedure we've done where we've had equal to save assessment and picking favourites, we randomly select one of the 3 or 4 or however many there is. So I mean, we're in your hands. The recommendation from the officer is for a ballot. Councillor Gleeson, question?
The other thing, Mr. Mayor, I was just going to say as well, the reason they're asking for the ballot style is because there's no actual, they're all based at the adjustment price, so there's no actual high tender to go in this to obtain the adjustment.
That said, of course, Mallinbar's contribution will be less than DG and JC and Apsley because they've got less cattle going with it. So the revenue to council would be half for that one as opposed to the other 2. Councillors, the question you want to ask there, so there's 2 questions you want to ask before we know who to put in the ballot. Well, first, do you want to do a ballot for it? Are you comfortable with that?
Mr. Mayor, last time we had this, we drew out the hat.
Yeah, that's what I meant, a ballot.
Oh, I thought you meant we had to write it.
No, not a vote, a ballot. So, are we comfortable with balloting? Whoever's?
Yeah.
Right. Secondly, are we limiting it to residents of our, properties within our council area? Or are we just putting them all in?
Regional.
That's right.
I would lean towards supporting locals.
Yeah, that's fine. So we're restricting it back to 3. And are we giving them all a go on the basis that we're providing this as drought support, or are we viewing it as drought support / revenue? So therefore we're limiting it to the 2 higher tenders. Councillor Blake.
Can I ask Damien a
Go.
question, please? Damien? So that we don't get shot down, Cremorne Cattle Co. Is that Cremorne, or is it some of the Naranyadal Nega Goodwins
No,
that
it's
are
actually-
using that name?
It's actually if you come from the Cremorne.
Thank you very much. Yes, that's back to 3. Thank you.
And so are we staying with all 3 in, or are we going with the 2 that want to fully stock it? Councillors, if you want my information, I actually, it says 100 head, that's what our tender says. But honestly, if we stock it with, if the 50 person was one that got it, then it'll last for a lot longer if we're looking at drought support. So I'm comfortable personally with all 3, but I want to know what council want about. Because from a revenue point of view, there's a difference between the 2 with 100 head as opposed to the 1 with 50.
Is the adjustment fee for the cows with some calves, is that a difference than dry animal?
That's $2.80.
Right through. So,
Sorry, Damien.
Mr. Mayor, if you're going to compare apples with apples, you really got to go with the people that are going to generate the same income.
That's if council's of a view that we're offering it with an income basis, not a, like obviously all 3 of these people are seeking relief, so they've all got need, it's just the size of the need that varies between them.
And I'm probably thinking, Mr. Mayor, that the number of people putting 50 head on it, hopefully they're going to get another 28 days because they haven't eaten it out as quick.
Well, that same could be said for the ones with 100 too.
Yeah, but that
It says it can run 100
in the
head.
first 28 days, so,
Yeah.
That's, sorry, Mr. Mayor, that's the other question I've got, but, is it 28 days and then you have to reapply, because if there's other people behind you, they get to have the next 28 days? Second 28 days, I always thought was only applicable if there was no one else applying.
No, 28 days. 28 days is for a stock route permit.
Yeah.
So this is,
We can select any number of days we like.
this isn't stock route, this is just adjustment package.
This is a reserve.
Okay, fair enough.
What was this stipulated?
Didn't have a time frame on it, I'd have to look at it.
The reason I asked that question is because a couple of years ago there was a time frame on it.
There was.
I know that the person, and the person that was there had to move in 28 days.
It's, the information is all applicants will be treated under government guidelines, and the successful applicant will be allowed to stay for 28 days with the idea of reapplying for a consecutive 28 days. Again, the advice from the RLO that's inspected the adjustment there as well, it'd be roughly how long that dry feed that is there is going to last as well. Yeah.
So in the past, but because it's not a stock route, the stock route approvals don't apply. In the past, when we've done that, they get 28 days, had a 28-day extension, and then they were out because it ran out of feed. We said we didn't want them there. So we use similar conventions to the stock route, but you're not bound by them. So the process is you get 28 days. If you've done the right thing, you apply to extend it, and you get it back. You don't have to go to open tender like they do now. So basically, if you do the right thing, whoever's selected today could get 56 days. Without having it, like the stock, they can't be kicked out like they would be on stock route if somebody else applied back into that 28-day window. So I'd be lucky if the water's still there at 28 days, to be honest. So are we balloting 2 or 3?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I don't think we sort of exclude anyone in our own council area due to the number. I'd be happy to stay with the 3.
Yep. Can you just read that again? I think it said up to 100 hectares, not 2, like it was not required that they have 100, was it?
Yeah, we've just got a maximum of 100 there.
So they're a conforming tender. I'm comfortable with them staying in myself. Right. They're all in here? Someone's already done it here, haven't they?
You've got
Your grandfather. It's a bit exciting. That's what it's called.
And the winner is.
Feels good. And I'll have the other two so we can just check.
His face.
So the successful balloted tender is Apsley Cattle Company. The other two were in the pot. DG, JC and BG Gray and Malumbo. You're moving? Councillor Peoples, Councillor Gleeson. Thank you. Those in favour? Okay. 374, building and land sale by tender in Jericho. The report is very clear here. Councillor Plum, you're moving that we do that. Seconder? Councillor Gleeson, is there discussion? Ensure you have read the report. No objections?
I think the important sentence there is that council will relocate the current tenant to another council-owned property. So
You're exactly right, Councillor Peoples. Just ensuring that we're all transparent.
through you, Mr. Mayor, that's suitable and similar accommodation. It's not a considerable rent change or not moving them from $150 a week to $300 a week.
Most
Profit
definitely
from
not.
sale? No. I would hope.
Mr. Mayor, we've only got, that was 2 houses in Jericho. That'll be down to 1 now, so.
And the rent and the other one were comparable.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
The resolution's in front of you, councillors. I'll put the vote. Those in favour? Carried. That gets you against there. Carried 7-0. Right, 381. Aramac Marlborough. Paula, would you like to lead us through anything?
Nothing really of concern there, just the flag the Marlborough kangaroo fence, so vendor panel closes tomorrow on that. So yeah, we hope to get that project completed by Christmas at the latest. Everything else is progressing well. Just had a final on the Marlborough Marlborough Interpretation Centre internal fit out yesterday, so I've got the final plans for that. And that's good. Fantastic.
What was that one, sorry, Paul?
MIC, internal fit out plans.
Finished or?
No, just the plans.
Oh, the plans, I couldn't hear you. Okay, the plans.
Sorry.
Any questions for Paula? Application for housing. Thank you, Paula. Sorry, Councillor Gleeson. Councillor Gleeson moved.
Number 4, is it?
Councillor Peters 3. 3 strikes, you're out. Get ready. Deputy Mayor, you might have the chair. All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Application for housing. Resolution here, the council offers the vacant house in Nitcomb Street, Marlborough for rent on the condition that all list requirements are met. very comprehensive report there, Paula, in identifying the issues on both sides, positive and negative. Thank you for that. Do I have a recommendation, decision, councillors?
I'll move that we follow the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Gleeson seconds. Opposing view? Those in favour? Carried 7-0. 383. Councillor Gleeson leaves the room. I will move the officer's recommendation, please. Second up, Councillor Hanson. Before I put it to further discussion, is there anything you'd like to add? It's not pretty self-explanatory. Delving into two other district managers' buckets of money too, I see, rather clever. Sorry about that, Jenny and Davey.
Oh, geez, no, I didn't realise they were going to take it from our bucket of money.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it will. $500 gone from Alpha too, Dave, you're gone as well. It's the Barrels for a Cause group's running some really good events. Their event at Australia Day in Aramac made it rain. I'm hoping they can have another one that'll do the same thing. Biggest fall of rain Aramac's had in about 7 or 8 years, I reckon, following that. So hopefully the same can happen in Buckthorpe and Jericho. They're good. These sort of events will be the sort of thing. They're not 3 or 4 days, they're 1 day and a bit of a nighttime thing. This style of thing for people who are interested in that will help our community recovery. So I think from a horse sport activity, this is a great thing. So those in favour? Opposed? Carried 6-0. 384. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Dave. Nothing you need to. Okay, deputation received this morning. Views were heard regarding the EOI on the bottom. You have in front of you the tenders in the keen, as well as documented on page 98 of your agenda. We won't just put this to the resolution straight at the moment. I think obviously the recommendation here is clearly one that would be accepted if that is in fact the way we go, but there is the other expression of interest. So thoughts please, councillors.
Thoughts? You asked for thoughts?
I did.
Mr. Mayor, I'm very keen on the presentation that the Sergeant of Police gave us this morning, and I would like to look into that further. As a council, look into that further, whether it's possible for that building to stay there. Is it in the road? Yeah, lots of questions we've got to answer, but that's I'd like to look into that. Into what we were talking about this morning, the presentation this morning.
Councillor Arthur.
I have similar questions to, it does forego $19,000, but there's potential higher intangible benefits. I don't particularly like the idea of delaying too many of the emotions over too long, but unless the rest of the councillors are a strong majority to either go with or not go with the resolution, I'd be happy to, if we can, pass it over for a month.
Councillor Rogers.
I have spoken to a few people in Aramac about their opinion about the building, and really it's not a strong feeling of keep it or, like, really they don't care if they keep it or if it gets taken away. So if we can do something with the building for the community, like Bruce can get some funding for that driver reviver or through the men's shed, as long as the building's not in our is it in our way? Do we need to move the building to get the other amenities block in there, or?
Certainly a lot of room in front of it.
If we need to move it, well, we need to move.
I think it's possible to have the new building next to it. Yeah, it certainly doesn't have to be removed for the new building to go in.
Councillor Plum.
I also liked Bruce's presentation this morning. My only concern is that to have it up and running, and who's going to do all the work, and you just wouldn't like to see it sit there for 12 months or so and not something happen with it because there's no funds. But I do like the idea that they want to use it, and they're going to use it for those sort of areas like the men's shed. Things like that. Is there another shed in town that they could use for a men's shed? Yeah.
No, not that I know of. Possibly, but I don't know of it. But you know, I just think there's probably, if it's not a men's shed, I think there's other uses there that it might be used for. We have other buildings around our showgrounds in other towns that probably only get used once a year, probably showtime or what have you. I just think there are uses for this building that probably will come in the future. I just, you know, we bought a men's shed in Munnabara for $50,000. This one's just sitting there, it's not going to cost us nothing. I think there are future possibilities for this building, and I think we hang on to it for a while and see what the community does.
Councillor Hanson.
Mr. Mayor, I'd be inclined to actually use it for community benefit of some kind. If it's possible, we can do that. That'd be the way I'd go.
That seems like it's possible.
Our new installation has a capacity to offer some of that service too, doesn't it? Yes, no. Not
There's a
ideally.
6 by 3 metre room in that for a secretary's office / bit of storage. Not a kitchen, not what's there. Obviously, there's a kitchen upstairs. No, to be objective, I'd have to say
not
no.
necessarily a men's shed, but the driver reviver.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Mr. Mayor, without the deputation from the sergeant this morning, I was all for to go ahead with that resolution.
Yeah, I guess I'd probably still am. I like the idea of a driver reviver and a men's shed. I don't know if that's the building for either of them. I think for $19,000 that could be a good start, and if we had a men's shed movement and we could build them like the guys in Alpha got a grant for theirs, build a custom built shed that you can do woodwork, metalwork, you know, do it all in. But I do it $19,000 to remove that, and then if there is the need for a driver reviver, whether it's there or in another location, well, there's 19 grand to start with. But if we leave it sit and see whether a community group pulls on wanting to do one of those two things, well, they can use that building. Obviously, that building needs a bit of work, like just tidying up and painting and a bit of stuff doing to it. So it's not just a matter of opening the doors and straight in.
Mr. Mayor, there's no issues around the tender validity, like for that. We haven't said that the tender's only good for 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. There was no stipulation in it. It was just tender it. And, okay.
I don't know that we're going to know any more in 6 weeks if we don't know now. Oh, unless somebody jumps up and says yes. You know, like Bruce has obviously talked to a lot of people in the community who want to do it, but somebody's still actually got to do it.
Yeah, yes.
So that could take, as Councillor Plum said, could take 6 to 12 months to, like, and a driver reviver centre's a couple of weeks off not being manned, really. So really it's not, that side of it would be March next year before we'd really know. So but the tender probably wouldn't be valid then, we'd start again. Anyway, so I think we need to remove the resolution and put that we accept the expression of interest from Bruce Jennings.
Yeah, I think under the council's rejecting the officer's recommendation.
Reasoning. Yep.
Why that?
Does not accept the highest tender. Due to community expression of interest and potential community use.
So in saying that, Mr Mayor, if Bruce was to say in a fortnight or 3 weeks' time, I want to use it for a driver reviver, is he entitled to use it for a driver reviver? In the summer holidays or whatever?
Council, all someone's got to do is just ask. Council building, council asset.
Mr Mayor, you put in there those tender prices and everything, or you just say that we're not,
And take them.
that we're just not accepting any tenders? That doesn't preclude us from coming back in 6 weeks' time and then moving the building on and taking the 19,000 off?
Yeah, once you've rejected the offer, so
It wouldn't be valid.
wouldn't be valid unless they agreed to it.
Yeah, so we're releasing them from their obligation.
Yeah. That changes it slightly then, doesn't it?
I have the plans here, Mr Mayor, if anyone would want to have a look at them.
Actually, that,
The top building, where a photo circle is where the actual building is.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, the wording of that now means that tenders are finished, and if we want to tender it again, if we're not happy with this in another month's time, we've got to go re-tender, start again.
No, technically not, because we've gone to tender and gone with another option, didn't accept it, we could actually offer it direct to somebody.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're going to have to bring.
But you think that we go
Sell
back
it
to the Coos and offer to them first?
They have to be for that price.
They can't do
that's
Paris.
all when you don't get the tender, if you don't get the tender accepted, yeah, I think it's got to go back to that price too.
Can't sell it for less than 19,000. If you reject this tender, you can't then go and sell it for 15 without quality.
Yeah.
Was there a date put on the end of the tender? Like can it hold over for another 6 weeks to the next meeting?
What's going to change? Well, I'll answer a question with a question. What's going to change in 6 weeks?
What's going to change?
That one, I'd say that.
Like as in, what's going to change that we don't already know? Like with, by Sergeant Jennings, it's future use by council of peoples. We're talking about potential, like it's keeping this building for things that could come up. It could be something that might never get realised for another 12 months. It's a good idea, might have even been thought of yet, you know, like the men's shed stuff, as Sergeant Jennings said, it's not actually around construction of anything. You can't do it in there. That's a place to meet and have a cup of tea and play a game of darts. And if you're going to cards or something, it's not a construction entity. So we've got a lot of conversations going on here, so I'll just stop and let you guys have a look at the plans as they come around.
When we discussed this, I believe at the last meeting, we were informed that this building was actually in the road.
Yeah, well, it's not.
So, you know, that's why I just wanted to finalise a few things like that. If we are going to retain this building for the police or men's shed or whatever, is the council going to think cock a bill every Saturday for renovating and water and the power and all those sorts of things? Like, is it going to cost more money than price to keep it? And I think it's a good idea to keep it, but to keep it, it's going to cost more money in the long run than selling it and leaving an open space there for car park or whatever they do. I just want to put a few things out.
Those questions probably aren't going to get known until we know what style of use it is. If it's used for driver reviver, it's the kettle boil and a couple of hours a day. It's pretty limited stuff, you know. Clean it, paint it. I mean,
which we could potentially do in the new building anyway.
which we're doing in the new building. That's correct. Yeah.
In the current environment, you'd be able to have a driver reviver.
Oh, no, actually. I'm not sold on it.
You definitely should know.
I'm just not sold on it as a,
Is there a kitchen in the actual building that's on top of the hill?
Yes.
Yes.
Paul, can you give us a run through the facilities that are upstairs?
Either side or something?
Yeah, so the building that's,
Councillors, this is what's upstairs.
the building that's on top of the mound, so one area is fully decked out kitchen, and it earns everything, plenty of PowerPoints. Other end is the bar area. So, you know, could potentially utilise that if for driver reviver if you needed to.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, what about his other idea of a communal kitchen? Because I actually think that is something that is more in, it'll become more in demand with just campers and bikes and that sort of thing. Would we be able to use that kitchen up on the hill for that? But we don't at the moment, but yeah, it's not utilised as much as we possibly could, but it just depends on, it's locked up, isn't it? Like,
So is this one though?
Yeah, so whether we could do that, I mean.
But Mr. Mayor, we wouldn't potentially lock this one up, this old one, but up on the hill, there's, you know, there's a fair bit of gear that's usually left in that one, along with the coal rooms, all that sort of stuff. This would be a lot sort of, not the gear in this one that we're talking about, that's in the one up on top of the pavilion.
Right, so where are we at?
Mr. Mayor, can I change that the council does not accept any tender for the removal of the Aramac Amenities building comprising the 2 showers and kitchen? Just take the highest tender from B&T per for 19,000, just take that section out.
That still won't change the result. And all the tenders are then released from their commitments once we don't accept them.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
3 years, Mayor, if we say we do not accept any tender, and then Bruce finds that he doesn't really have the support to go ahead, and it just ends up being vacant there, like, that obviously means that would that resolution stop us from going back to tender again for how long? Because there'd be a limit, like if we've resolved not to accept any tenders at all for that building, for removing the building, does that mean that we would have to wait for 12 months? Like how long would we have to wait if Bruce couldn't get that support to open that building up before we can go back to tender?
Don't have to wait any period of time.
You can just go, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, otherwise what happens if Bruce gets transferred tomorrow?
I don't think it's just a Bruce.
Point a new one.
I don't think it's just a Bruce issue. It's a community issue that that building couldn't be used down the track for something in the community. It's not just a Bruce issue.
Need someone there.
Private. So does not accept any tenders
Yeah.
for the removal of the Aramac Amenities building, comprising the 2 showers and kitchen area, due to community expression of interest for a potential community use. Any current tenders? There you go. Any current tenders? So did we actually go to a formal tender process with this, or did we call for expressions of interest? Was a formal tender. Okay. All right. Moved to Councillor Peoples, seconded. Councillor Gleeson, do we have discussion further on this?
Mr. Mayor,
It's certainly not in the footprint of the new building, but it could possibly be in the way.
That's wrong.
So the
Why is that, Rick?
just to move buildings in and out. But we can work around it.
Well, I could see that possibly you have to pull down a bit of the caravan fence.
That is a possibility to move around it, yes.
Yeah.
Just flagging that it could cost something to move around. Because in that tender process, we flagged it was going to be wrong.
Sorry. Have more questions? Is it in there?
Probably 2 panels of fence.
Yes.
But Mr Mayor, can I just add to that too, that all of that arena are portable panels? All of that arena is portable panels, so you can probably come in through the arena too.
Through you, Mr Mayor, what I'm flagging the main inconvenience the contractor. Whatever you inconvenience someone in the contract, it can cost money.
Right,
I'll do my best to not have it cost them money. Chris will.
Councillor Arthur.
Mr Mayor, I've changed tack, I'm happy to go with the SAG contender again, which is in opposition to what
Is there, right?
that is there now, but yeah.
Someone speak in favour? Councillor Arthur against? One in favour? Councillor Gleeson, yes?
Sorry.
No.
I'm speaking.
If you want to speak, or you don't have to, no one has to speak. Councillor?
Mr Mayor, I'll speak in favour. I just think that, this here was a building that was put there by Bob Marshall in his time, that has had community use, and I think we'll have future community use at some stage. We have buildings at all of our different showgrounds like Alpha and some here at the Barkwood showgrounds that don't get used all the time. They do have uses, when there's a requirement for them. And I can see this being the same with this building at the Aramac Showground. So I think there would be a future use to the community, some form, and I'd like to see it stay.
Anyone else like to speak against?
Through you, Mr Mayor, just considering that it's going to cost money to get the building in there, if we have to remove, if we have to remove the fence and then rebuild the fence, I just feel like keeping a building that's only worth $19,000 and it could end up costing us that much.
That fence.
To get that around.
I'll be honest with you, I'm against the resolution, but that's not going to cost $19,000 to move that fence. It's an old,
If anything.
Yeah.
if anything, if you removed it, you may opt not to do it. So, whilst I'm against the resolution, I'm not doing it on the basis of the cost, extra cost involved. It would be not significant. So I wouldn't want councillors to vote with that. I think that the pretext of the cost, you just need to be aware that there may be, when we get the printout at the end of the project, an extra variation for that, but it would be minimal, very minimal. All right?
Mr Mayor, if I can still talk against, if that's...
Oh, sorry, I may be guillotined you, yes.
No, that's right. I take on board what Councillor Peebles has said about underutilised buildings in most of our recreational areas, and I would think council would look, if someone was to offer us money to take those away, that we would consider that. Like I said, I've changed tack in the 15 minutes that I've had to sit and think about it. I think there's other buildings over there that can offer those initiatives that our deputation spoke to this morning. I think it's an opportunity. It's an old building. A lot of those old buildings that we only use once a year still cost us a considerable amount of money of upkeep, cleaning, maintenance. That's all,
Councillor Peebles, I'll give you the right to sum up.
Mr Mayor, the council Arthur's reason there with the old buildings and the ones that he'd probably get around, possibly remove around the Mark Alden Showgrounds, but there's sheds there that you use for your shows. There's the old building there at the railway that, the boxing come along that wasn't there for a while, and we had a boxing troupe that went in there for a while. Those buildings, they are there and they mightn't get a lot of use, but there are uses for them at different times. And we've got a building there. We bought a building in Munnabara for $50,000 from Men's Shed, and we spent money on doing it up. Well, that small community, we've got a building here that's already there, and we want to get rid of it. It's not going to cost us nothing. I'd like to see it stay there for the community.
I'd just like to add one more little thing. If we remove it, we've got $98,000 in the bank, which won't go very far, and it's gone. If we leave it there, we can come back to this in another 6 months or 12 months' time and say, well, it's in the road. Let's move it. So I'm sticking to my decision. Thank you.
Well, that's two sum ups for the one motion, so I think I better put it to the vote. Those in favour? Yes?
Would you like a cup of tea? That's a great.
Having a time for tea. On the basis that I put this to the vote, I'm going to put it again to the vote, only so that you can hear from me while I'm doing this, because I indicated a moment ago that I was against the resolution. On the basis that once you sell something, it is final, Councillor Gleeson hit me with the clincher. I don't believe that this building will be successfully utilised for anything that I've heard today. But we won't replace it for $19,000. Councillor Gleeson is correct. What concerned me initially and why I was in favour of removing it is, God, we haven't got a report on what it'll cost us to get it operational again. It might be $500, might be nothing. Somebody might do a working bee and do all the painting for us. Don't know. But once it's gone, it's gone. So I think for now, even though I genuinely, individually believe that it would be the best thing for it to go, I will vote in favour of the resolution on the basis of a 3-all call. I don't think that there's enough clarity for my personal view to use effectively what's a casting vote, so I'm going to go 4-3. I am concerned about us not having removed that, but I think that there's significant the arguments here are compelling both sides. To work it out. 3, 8.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, can I be recorded as a guest?
Councillor Arthur wishes to be recorded. 3, 9, 1. Can somebody move District Manager Mark Corley's report?
Just been received.
Plum, seconded Councillor Police. All in favour? Carried. Jenny?
To you, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to add to what Brett said this morning about the display that's in the history room at the Globe. It's called From All the Lands on Earth We Come. There's 19 personalities featured in there, and I commend the 2 staff members that put all that together. And it is good to read their stories, and they all have the same issue. They miss their families from afar, but, you know, they are here and making the most of it. But it is worth a look at, definitely. So I commend the 2 staff on doing that. The pool supervisor and pool lieutenant lifeguard, we're just waiting for finalisation of that at the moment. I didn't have it in this report because I had prepared this prior to going to the Neil Fisher workshop last Thursday. And I mentioned to Brett and them that the staff members that came along really participated, and I think they took a lot out of it. It was great to see their interaction with Neil Fisher as well. So, yeah, and I did speak to him afterwards, and he did a 3-hour session, which I think was long enough, rather than doing it a whole day over many days. A few of those 3-hour sessions, and they all participated and interacted. It was really good to see. So I think they got out of it as much as Neil put into that. So yeah, so I think they all enjoyed it. Apart from that, I don't think there's too much else in there that I need to talk to or much. Speaks for itself. The local laws officer, I have spoken to him again the other day, is doing as well as can be expected. He said the radium's probably what's affecting him most, and he's only got this week and another 4 days or so of treatment, and he should be home for a period of about 3 weeks. So.
Questions?
Can I just ask a couple of questions? Jenny, with regards to the swimming pool, is the new supervisor or pool lieutenant going to be able to start like for the school holidays, or is it going to open?
Through Mr. Mayor, yes, it's being treated this week. I've got having meetings these 3 days. I haven't had a chance to speak to the staff member that's getting that pool prep for us, so I'll be checking tomorrow how we're going with that, so we can get a time frame of when we'll be able to open it, when the pool's ready for opening, and be following up on the positions.
Thank you. And also, with regards to the local laws officer, I believe that we noticed him being about, and now he's not here. Where I am noticing that things are happening, like dogs are barking, and I was just wondering if there's any chance of us hiring maybe the Longreach fellow just to come down and do a bit of a...
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we were using the RLO, and I've spoken to the district manager at Alpha that on a needs basis, and I'll follow up with Damien, that we use the RLO from Alpha. He's helped us out in the past, and he doesn't know the people of Blackpool, and it's probably easier.
Yeah, someone that doesn't need to know, but I just feel that people are just going back to their same old ways and letting their dogs bark. And
yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, we have had a report of an issue at a house, and each time the RLO went there, whilst he knew that someone was inside, he couldn't get anyone to come out. And then when he went to another house in the same neighbourhood, he saw they were at home, but they drove away as he was heading there. So yeah, But, yeah, I've got to speak to Damien regarding getting Yarrowlow.
So, is there any way that we can do a 3-week, maybe house to house check on registered dogs? Can we do that?
Mr. Mayor, under the Act, we can do a systematic inspection, but we have to advertise the fact that we're doing it, so that people know that you're coming, so they make sure the dogs are out of town as soon as you've done the inspection.
But if you put it over, say, a 3-week, timeline, then they're not going to know.
Yeah, they'll take the dogs away for 3 weeks and then bring them back when that time period's gone. And we found that last time we did a systematic inspection. That's exactly what they did. The dogs disappeared for the 3 weeks and then they were back. Time was up.
You got a queue for barking dogs, haven't you?
Sorry?
You got a queue for barking dogs?
Yes, I have a queue.
Waiting for
Councillors, you have levers that you can pull if you're worried about barking dogs. It's the policy of council to allow people to have dogs in town for a start. And it's also the policy of council to allow them to have a number of dogs. So ultimately, the best way to make sure there's no barking dogs in town is to say no dogs. Like if barking dogs is that critical an issue, we just ban dogs. That's entirely within the purview of council. We can prevent the keeping of dogs in a town area. And we can also limit the number of dogs in a town area. So ultimately, whilst there is issues around enforcement and local laws, the easiest way to fix barking dogs is no dogs. Dogs can't bark if they're not here. That's important. So realistically, we've got policies. You will never, barking dogs has been an issue that's plagued local government since the time local government was first incepted. If we want to eliminate barking dogs, we eliminate dogs, simple. Local laws, you can have 25 local laws and enforcement officers that can't work 24 hours a day. A dog will bark. So, realistically, if we've got levers we can pull, we'll do it next February if that's the intent of council. We'll just ban dogs. That fixes it. It is literally that simple. But I hope all of us have got used to hate mail because it will come.
So I'd have to walk out with a conflict of interest.
We'll see, sorry.
I'd have to walk out with a conflict of interest.
Yeah, I got nothing. I don't live in town. So it sounds facetious, but realistically, if you want to stop a dog barking, just eliminate the dogs. No more dogs. There's never not been a case in history when one of the most common registered complaints in local government is barking dogs. I haven't been in local government that long, but there's a lot around me you have, and it's never been solved yet. So,
Councillors, we did reduce the number of dogs from 3 to 2 at one stage.
So 2 to 1 and then 1 to none.
Or 2 to 6.
Yes.
Certainly.
Through Mr. Mayor, Jenny, has the RLO officer reported the sheep out on the common? If they have, is the people that own the sheep paying adjustment out on the Buckhorn Common?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I spoke to the RLO and he has spoken to the owner who said he was removing his and talking to the owner of the others that were there. So our RLO is now on leave. So he was assured by the owner that he was removing those sheep.
Thank you. There's 50 fat sheep out there that it's just, thank you.
More questions for Jenny? 392. Expression of interest, Buck Auburn Airport Terminal. I think this one speaks for itself. Councillor Pickles is moving it. Seconder. Councillor Arthur. Conversation against it. There being none, I put the vote. All in favour? 7-0. 393, excess water. speaks for itself. Conversation.
Considerable amount of excess water, Mr. Mayor.
It is. Officers, could council elect to waive a portion of it, not all of it, or is there a legislative statement that says we have to waive all or none?
Do whatever you wish, Mr. Mayor.
Council can do whatever it wishes. So we can waive part, all, or none. Someone tell me what we're doing.
Does someone live here?
Oh.
Was it vacant?
There is a tenant.
There's a tenant.
The water was, has it got pipes under the floor or under that house? And it was,
Yeah.
Not the house in the sink.
It was like a coil, I think it's from what I could gather from the report that was attached to an email, that it's like a cooling pipe, poly pipe, you know. Yeah. And the leak, as you see in there, was quite significant, so that was measured by a plumber.
2,500 litres.
That's how many?
24 kilolitres.
3 days.
That's a lot of water.
Over 3 days.
3 days,
That's a
yeah.
lot of water.
I don't think you could waste that much if you tried, you know, like it's got me inclined to believe that it's actually a legitimate. It is entirely legitimate, you know.
Mr. Mayor, a plumber went around and provided a report.
And to you, Mr. Mayor, with having used the council plumber to do the readings for us, the allocation from when it was read in, the annual allocation from when it was read in June to when it was reported to us and our plumber read it was above the annual allocation already.
Yeah, from June till now, yeah.
From June till, well, 2 weeks ago, yeah, August.
So they used 1,800 kilolitres in 3 months. They exceeded it anyway.
It's actually 19.
Luckily it's been fixed.
Yes.
That's a lot of water, eh?
5 litres a minute, yeah, all day, every day.
How high is the house? How come you couldn't see it?
There's 3-step up, low step. Yeah, 3 steps up.
But there is, like we've got photographs, so it's legitimate. So good as your heart's tough late in the day, what are we doing?
Through Mr. Mayor, is there a history, like have we in the past as council waived, if it's been proven to be a leak, have we waived them before? That's not something that's...
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think I know of one instance that I don't think that people came to council of a leak found. It was probably on a larger block of land, and they didn't come to council. They didn't bring it to the attention of council. They actually paid the bill. They had the water leak fixed when it was located and paid the bill, so it didn't come to council. That's the only particular one.
They didn't ask.
There has been cases where we've written off water bills.
Well, 2 years ago we wrote off people who were using it for gardens, and you could make the allegation that some were blatantly wasting it. So we wiped the entire town's excess water bills 2 years ago.
So has this charge been sent to the owner?
Previously, yes, it was their last excess water bill, went out in June.
And they haven't come back to you and paid anything or said anything about it?
These particular people,
Yeah.
this particular, no, they came to council.
Well, they have come and asked.
Yeah.
This is not, the officers haven't put this up. They've approached us asking
approached
for it to
us.
be waived before they pay it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the plumber that's been around and repaired and done all the works there, fixed the leak and what have you, have we been paid for that?
Excuse me, that was a private plumber.
Oh, it's private, eh?
It's private. That, no,
No,
we
our
only
plumber.
did the meter.
Yeah, we did the meter reading.
Okay.
It was a
I was
private
going to
plumber.
say maybe we charge
No.
what that cost.
Mr. Mayor, that's a big chunk of money for someone that's, he don't do that on purpose. He obviously didn't know that he had a leak under his house, or she.
When you're out.
I'd be looking at reducing that somehow.
Councillors, I'm very conscious of the time of the day. Can somebody give me a resolution?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to waive that.
In its entirety? Right, move to Councillor Rogers. Do we have a seconder?
You set the precedence here.
Possibly, one of compassion.
Oh, got that.
Sorry,
Already got that.
seconded Councillor Peebles. Now discussion, will there be discussion against it? Does someone want to suggest an alternative?
Just through you, Mr. Mayor, is this a personal pensioner or what's their work situation?
That house, I believe, is a rented here.
Mr. Mayor, it is a tenanted house and the owner of the property, it's not written in there, and I don't know what agreements are in place for on charging any excess water bills, but the advice is that the tenant is responsible for the excess water.
Mr. Mayor, I'd be interested more so in maybe a 50% reduction, but I'm against the full waiver of it's unfortunate and it does happen, but it is part of renting a house or living in a house.
So 50%?
I'd be happy, more comfortable with 50%.
Anyone else want 50%? Can you two tell me what you were going to do
I'll
then?
put a figure up $500.
Wait, 500?
All bar 500.
All bar 500. They can contribute something. Councillor Gleeson, what are you doing?
I've got to contribute something, but not waive 50%, no way. Not waive the $1,600. Can't handle it. I'm not in favour of waiving 50%. A lot of water.
I don't even get the casting vote this time because they're all over the place. Someone's going to give it all back. Some of you want to give half of it back. Some want to give nearly none of it back.
Would you, through you, Mr. Mayor.
Someone get some consensus here
Would you
quickly.
be more happy with only waiving 25%?
25%. Yeah, to waive the 25%.
Yeah.
So that's you two. Councillor Hanson, he's closer to the top. Where are you, Councillor Plum?
Oh, they're not getting it no.
Councillor Hanson was saying that he only wants to charge 500. Am I right there? Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, only charge.
yeah, charge. So he's closer to you two. He's giving it all back, nearly.
And 25%.
Well, we're going to have to meet in the middle here, eh?
And that's waive 25%. That's
I can't keep putting resolutions and having them voted down because in effect then I can't represent it for 3 months. So the motion has been moved by Councillor Rogers and seconded by Councillor Peebles. Are you going to accept an amendment, either of you, to that in the interest of getting this through?
Yes, I would, but depending on what the amendment was. Councillor Arthur, did you say that you want to charge 25% of that or just take off 25%?
Originally, I was happy to waive 50%. But I'm also open to Councillor Gleeson's suggestion that we only waive 25% so that 75% of it's recovered. So if the resolution sat at waiving 50%, I would happily support that.
Yep, so will I. Let's go. Waive 50% of the excess water charge.
Well, I'll stick with my original motion there, Mr Mayor,
Righto.
get away 50%.
You're the same, councillor Rogers. The council waives the excess water charge. Those in favour? Against? Motion is lost. To Councillor Plum, I didn't pick your vote then, which way you were. You were in the middle, sorry. Yeah, but were you in favour or against?
Against.
Against 2. 5. An alternative resolution, or are we leaving it at that?
Mr Mayor, can I have my name recorded?
Are you moving?
Sorry,
You're going to line now.
Yeah,
Are you going to move an amendment at all?
not an amendment, no. I'm just going to move another motion now, if you want to. Right, so it's not all going back. What are you saying? Somebody give you a motion what you're putting back?
I'd like to move that we waive 50%, Mr Mayor.
Moved. Councillor Arthur. The council waives 50% of the excess water charge. Is there a seconder? Councillor Plum. Those in favour?
Guess we'll have to review it,
Against? 5-2. Carried. Three 9-4, fencing in the Bark Hall Town Common. The matter was discussed in the report a month ago. Resolution is that council proceeds. Councillor Hanson, do you wish to speak?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I think I did say most of what I wanted to say last time. But one thing I would like to add is, going back probably 18 months, 2 years ago, I was listening to the radio coming back Blackpool Way, and the mayor come on and they'd done a shopper docket thing at the river park in Blackpool. And I'm pretty sure the figure he said was a $40,000 income to that town from people free camping in Blackpool. And apart from that, I'm still against fencing.
Anyone in favour of this wish to speak to it? I'm speaking to it. I think I don't discredit the advice of Councillor Hanson and his opinion on this at all. I've actually taken a long time to consider it. However, I feel that the benefits around safety for visitors, visual amenity, and accessibility issues, especially around the rest stop area, will be better served with this area being fenced. So I'm sure whether other councillors have changed, but I'll signal my intent is that I will support this resolution. Will anyone move it?
Sorry, Mr Mayor, if I
Sure,
can...
wish to speak?
Oh, can I speak to the issue of this? The fencing proposal, does it line up with our property boundary?
One that's
Are we fencing on...
Yes.
To you, Mr Mayor, that is indicative at the moment. We will get the proper boundary.
Okay,
That's
okay.
yesterday. That's indicative.
Because according to the information on Queensland Globe, the property boundary is back a lot further. So I'm not sure whether fencing into the property boundary is, it may eliminate some of the issue of free parking there, but I think it's still going to allow, I'll do a picture. But yeah, from what I can see on,
Councillor, which boundary are you referring to?
well, the parcel
Highway
boundary,
or
well, behind it.
So definitely the fence on the back of that land is about 30 metres out of alignment. Hanging onto the pony pole.
On the northern end of it. So we mean?
We're not,
Are you doing Google
that's at
Maps?
the, excuse me, that's at the back, that's not, nothing to do with the front though.
I'm just trying to work out from Councillor Arthur which fence which boundary he's talking about, saying it's off the line.
Well, because from what I can see, it's in a road reserve, the rest area, and there's some 20 odd metres behind the facilities before is actually the parcel boundary. Yeah, so I'm not.
So we can't fence off the road, the rest area.
I know, I understand that.
Yeah, there's still, what you're saying, Councillor Arthur, sorry for the word, there's still going to be room for some people to
Yes.
park in there. That, I think that would be unavoidable unless we fence.
Which we can't. But yeah, no, just so that we're clear, we're not necessarily going to alleviate all of the free parking there by the representation of where
No
the fence
chance.
line is.
I would concur with that totally.
Mr.
Mayor, sorry, you go.
No, you go, Gary.
Mr. Mayor, I personally think like with the fencing, we're going to push some of them out into the park and along the cemetery fence and across the road from the cemetery. I think we'll find a lot more of that. I think we might make a rod for our own back.
District Manager? No? Okay. Do I have a mover? Councillors Arthur moves and Plum seconds. Those in favour of the motion? Against?
Sorry, I was for, sorry.
You're causing all sorts of heartache here, eh? I've never seen so many 4-3 votes in Barclay. Come again, please. Those in favour?
My apologies to the chamber.
Against? The vote is carried 4-3.
Can you record my note, please?
I'll call for division, please.
Okay.
Right, councillors indicate your votes, please. Councillor Rogers? 4. Councillor Arthur?
4.
Councillor Hanson? Councillor Gleeson?
Against.
Councillor Peoples?
Against.
Councillor Plum? And the chair was 4. 3, 9, 5. Jenny, would you like to speak to your meeting?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. The meeting was actually quite, it was very civil and it was quite resourceful. There were only 3 trainers turned up and their input was very minimal. There wasn't too many changes. They had both those prior to coming to the meeting that we had with them. I think their changes were coupled to the operational plan around training times. They also brought to our attention about the fact of, the barrier trials that are held on our turf track after meetings, that there are charges for that in other places. So they're quite happy with the fact that it was brought to their attention that there will be costs associated with them being trainers at our track. So yeah, it was a really good meeting. I thought, yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Peoples has raised just 2 areas that he'd like to raise. Councillor? One is about the working abreast.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Working abreast, it's got there that we can only have 2 horses work abreast, and I go to the jump outs and the barrier trials, and the trainers consider that when they have their jump outs and barrier trials, they usually have 3 or 4 horses if there's jockey availability in those trials. So if we have in there that we can only work 2 horses abreast, it restricts how many they can have in a trial.
3 Mr. Mayor, yeah, I think the barrier trials are probably excluded from from that, definitely. So yeah, and just based on the discussion we had about barrier trials, we probably have to work up some other arrangements around how barrier trials are run and if there's a charge for them and those sorts of things. So.
And the only other thing I'd add to barrier trials is they can probably be not only on the Saturday after race meeting, but they could have them on the day where you're allowed on the track.
That wasn't discussed at the time. They were only discussed the barrier trials that they did on race days, and talking to the steward about those, they said that we could know who was going to be doing that sort of stuff. But
And through you, Mr. Mayor, they were very positive and proactive about the galloping on the track on the Wednesday prior to race meetings, and saying that while there's a stipulated number, what they would prefer to do is work together, and only the horses that really need to gallop on the grass on the Wednesday prior to the race meeting would actually gallop on the grass.
Okay.
So, and to reiterate what Jenny said, like it was the trainers that come, the three of them that were there, and a fourth one sent in very detailed notes. It was a pleasure to talk to them, and I actually said it should become a quarterly process to sit down and talk to them, because there's a lot of positives come out of it.
And through Mr. Mayor, we did advise them that this template that we had here was actually provided to us by Warren Williams.
Warren, yeah.
Yeah, so we haven't, it hasn't been something that we've designed and made up, it's one that we've used and tweaked to suit our track.
Okay, the only other one that I sort of had some queries about, Mr. Mayor, was somewhere I saw here,
Damage to the track.
damage to the track will be the responsibility of the trainer. I don't think that would be the case anywhere else in Australia. So did they agree?
So this was provided, that was
Sorry?
The whole, through Mr. Mayor, the whole document was provided by Warren, so we didn't take any of that or add that in.
And the track they're referring to would be damage to the running rails, the facilities, more so than the actual surface. I would take that, but the way I read that this afternoon.
But again, Mr. Mayor, I don't think that that'd be the responsibility of the trainer or any of the other tracks in Australia. That's club or owner of the track under their insurance. I don't think trainers would be responsible for putting the bill on a horse hitting a running rail or breaking a running rail or something like that. And
Mr. Mayor, I was more in my mind, because I'm not into horses or racing or anything. In my mind, it was if they were doing their daily training and were to do damage to the track, like just to the sand part or something, that was how I saw it. It wasn't for the larger damage.
so you're talking track surface.
That's how I saw it, how I read into it. Yeah, I can clarify with Warren.
Yeah, I would clarify that, because even the track surface is still, track curators, that's their responsibility after track gallops or race meetings. I can't see that we're going to get those trainers walking around there filling in divots or anything after a gallop. I'd be very surprised.
We'll check that out, but if that's standard, then I think we can probably adopt the rest of it. Council's got any questions with anything else in there? Moved. Councillor Hanson, seconded. Councillor Arthur. Any further discussion? All in favour? Carried. A.R. Brown Memorial Award for the Ducks of the Year 12 Buncalden State School continues with its sponsorship, a monetary amount of 150 and a small engraved plaque or gift to the value of $50. Any of you got anything to add to your report?
Mr. Mayor, we did have this on our budget wish list, but unfortunately it wasn't something that made it there, so we don't have anything for this year's ducks.
Well, I'm pleased you drew it to our attention. I have no problem with supporting this. Moved Councillor Peters, seconded Councillor Gleeson. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Time being 4:37. Officers, can I extend my sincere appreciation for the day? I've never been to a general meeting like this, ever. I've been here for a number of years, but massive preparation, extreme detail. We've gone on, we've had some lengthy discussions about a $3,000 rebate. We've had substantial discussions around $400,000 and $500,000 million projects. Don't believe time was wasted, apart from when I was deliberating around the vote on one issue. I appreciate the effort that you've gone through, because preparing for today was as difficult for you as it was for us with the 2 days yesterday. Councillors, I want to echo that and add significant gratitude to you. I'm extremely proud of the team that we have after yesterday and the day before, and today's reflected every other general meeting I've been a part of, but we've made decisions that will be viewed controversially in elements of our communities. We've done it without fear nor favour, and I believe that the corporate ethos of this room is being enhanced every time you meet as a body. And the only, I guess, downer on that is that, as I say words like that, somebody who's been a big part of providing that instrumental leadership is attending his last meeting with us as at a general meeting. Obviously, we're all going to work with Stephen still over the next couple of weeks, but I am growing in admiration for this group, and in no small part that's been because of the resources that's been provided by Stephen to us. And the ability that we have to make decisions. We made decisions today. I voted on the opposite way that I'm sure some of my executive team would have wished I did on a couple of issues. We're moving into an environment that we can all get out of here and do it well. So I congratulate Stephen formally, whilst I'm not sure if the camera's still rolling, but I haven't actually closed the meeting, formally thank him for providing this council, albeit with a 6-month leadership, but the stability and the ability to springboard to really lead us into what should be a dynamic and challenging period, but hopefully with big rewards and bigger dividends for our community. So please join me with thanking our CEO by acclamation. Thank you very much.
So, the positive news, I think, Mr. Mayor, I can watch on. I look forward to
you wouldn't do it to yourself.
Well, I'm very interested in watching where things go. So, yeah, I look forward to watching on with great interest. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like just to say a big thank you to the caterer over the last 3 days. Like today's lunch was lovely, and I just think that if we could go back and just thank them very much for what they.
Jenny or Jess or Hayley, whoever organisation, pass on thanks, convey the thanks to council for that.
In addition,
you home, but anyway.
In addition to that, I'm a big fan of the serving sizes, not the smorgasbord.
Right.
I know what you